Today I have with me Nicky Billou. Did I pronounce that correctly, Nicky Billou?
You did. You
I got
did
right, got
perfect.
it right the first time. That's always a good thing. Nicky is the co-founder of eCircle Academy, a magna cum laude graduate of Georgetown University in the Foreign Service Program. He has studied business growth and ethical persuasion for decades. He is also an international best-selling author and host of the #1 podcast for thought leaders. Nicky, thank you for being on the show today.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
My pleasure. What inspired you to start your company, Nicky, and what are the main services that it offers?
It's a great question. So I'll start by kind of telling you my backstory. So I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. When I was 11 years old, the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran, and it was a world-changing cataclysmic event. And my late father, God rest his soul, he could see the writing on the wall. This was not going to be a place to raise a Christian family. And so he and my mom got together, they talked about it, and they said, we need to leave Iran and we need to take our kids with us, obviously. Now, at 11, I didn't want to leave my home. I didn't want to leave my friends, right? But looking back in retrospect, it was the single greatest thing mom and dad could have done for us. It took them a few years, but they got us out of Iran, and eventually we settled where I now live in Toronto, Canada. And what I can tell you is that the legacy that my mom and dad left for us was they took us from a legacy of tyranny to a legacy of freedom. I believe inside every human breast beats the living heart of freedom. Every man, every woman on this planet desires to chart their own course, to march to the tune of their own drummer. God Almighty gave us the gift of freedom, and we know instinctively that we want this. So I became this champion for freedom. And freedom to me is the bedrock of free expression. And free expression is the bedrock of free enterprise. And that's the bedrock of entrepreneurial success. So I became somebody who started to read. I was a bit of an intellectual, a bit of an egghead. And I started to read tons of books on the subject of freedom. And I studied thinkers like Thomas Sowell. I studied thinkers like the late, great Milton Friedman and Friedrich Hayek. I read the books of Ayn Rand, The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. And I started to realize that if you're going to go into business, you need a strong philosophical underpinning on what business really is all about and what allows you to flourish in business. And that means you need to become a philosopher of freedom. The ancient Greeks said that philosophy wasn't this ivory tower thing. Philosophy was a study of how to live your life. And to me, the modern entrepreneur, that's what they need to be. So I got into entrepreneurship as a champion and a philosopher of freedom. And my late father, he was that kind of fellow. And I got to tell you, Greg, if you met him, you would have liked him. If you were looking for work and he knew you, he'd sit you down in his office, he'd call all his entrepreneur buddies, and he would just ethically persuade them until one of them gave you a job. If you were trying to start a business, he'd sit you down in his office and he'd tell you, tell me what you want to do. You'd tell him, he'd give you like a rough game plan. He'd give you access to money, to capital. He'd even try to get you some clients, even if you were going to go and compete against him, because he didn't really believe in competition, right? He believed there was plenty for everybody. And if you were trying to buy a car or a house, right, and you didn't quite have enough money and the bank wouldn't give you quite enough to get your dream car, your dream home, Dad would give you a loan to top you up. And then if you ever tried to pay him back, he'd say, what are you talking about? That was a gift. That's the kind of man that he was, man. And people today, they still come to me and go, are you Napoleon Billou's son? You related to him? I go, yeah. And they just like go, I want to tell you a story about your father and what he did for me. And I was honored and proud to be this man's son. You know, he would tell me as a kid, son, remember, life is a people game, not a numbers game. And I go, okay, Dad. He said, but remember, Dad. And he'd call me Daddy, even though he'd say, Daddy John, that's what he'd say, Daddy John. He'd go, Daddy John, business is about people, not about money. And I'm 8, and I'm going, Dad, what are you talking about? Of course, business is about money. Without money, you can't do no business. Smart aleck 8-year-old, right? And he said, that's true, son. But without people, there's no need for money to do any business. Because you see, all business is about solving problems for people for profit. That is the purpose of business. Think of a Venn diagram. You solve acute problems for awesome people at an amazing profit. That is the awe-inspiring purpose of business. And when I got into business, and this gets into the services I offer, I wanted to help other entrepreneurs because, like, I saw them through the lens of my father. This is a potential another Napoleon Billou, right? I got to help this person. And there's a lot of good people who get into business, you know, and they have the highest ethics, the highest morals, but their sales and marketing skills, and pardon me for this technical term that I'm about to use, suck. You know what I mean? They suck. And me, I was raised by an entrepreneur. I studied business in school. I did business on my own. I understood business, especially sales and marketing. Let's face it, if you're not selling something, you have a hobby, not a business. So I started to get into teaching people how to get past their fear of selling so they don't think, oh my God, I'm a bad person if I sell. Because nobody wants to be sold, right? You don't want to be sold. I don't want to be sold. Nobody wants to. But don't you love being served by a caring person? You love it, right? And you want to give your money to them. You trust them. You want them to prosper. And this is what I do. And this is what I teach people. And I take this from my father, who always said to me, son, every human being on this planet needs someone to believe in them. You do, I do. Everybody needs someone to believe in them. There's going to be moments where their self-belief wobbles. It's your job to remind them who they really are. And my services are about teaching people to get out of their own way so they can sell more effectively, teach them how to get their messaging lined up so that people know why to do business with them, so they don't sound like everybody else, and teaching them methods that work today to get people on your calendar so that you can be more effective in sales. Because there's a lot of people that are teaching you about things that worked 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, but don't work today. And I like talking about things that work today that help people get paid today.
Excellent. So who is your ideal client then? Do you have one?
Is a good, heart-driven man or woman who is in a service-driven business, typically a lot of coaches, a lot of consultants, but also people from other fields who maybe are getting into coaching for the first time. You know, we've had doctors, we've had therapists, we've had mortgage brokers. All of those folks, they have an interest in being of service to their fellow man and woman. And their main pain point is, I don't have enough business. I don't know how to attract clients. I don't know how to get people on my calendar. So I'll tell you a story of one fella. His name was Carl Kramer. God rest his soul. He passed away a couple years ago in the summer from pancreatic cancer. But when he came to us, Carl was a dude with a great pedigree, right? He had been a senior executive vice president in a manufacturing company here in Canada. He made $350,000 a year, but he worked 60 hours a week. He was burning out, so he quit at the age of 56. And that's my age now. My God, that's pretty crazy. But, you know, he came to us saying, I'm coaching people now, and I love what I do because I work 25, 30 hours a week, but I don't like the financial haircut I took. I'm making only 70 grand a year. I want to get back to the same amount of money I used to make before, but I don't want to work that hard. So we sat with Carl and we said, okay, Carl, who do you help? He says, I can help anybody with any business problem. You don't sound valuable. You sound like everybody else. So we went through an exercise. And this exercise, I like Venn diagrams, right? Don't hold it against me. I like Venn diagrams. They're cool. So we drew a circle. Who are the customers you've worked with that you got really good results for? So he wrote those names out. Who are the customers you've worked with that you loved working with? They're like good people, easy to work with, like your heart sinks. And then who are the customers you work with that are easy to transact with? i.e. they pay on time, in full, they refer you lots of clients. How many people fit in all three buckets? So that exercise helped them. Solo practitioner lawyers. And their big pain point was not enough business, not enough growth. And coincidentally, Carl was a specialist in scaling. That's what he was good at when he was at the manufacturing company. So Carl started to, with our help, put some messaging together for these lawyers and saying, are you a solo practitioner or attorney? making, seven figures, but are you stuck? Are you wondering how the heck can you double, treble your business? Apparently, there's a lot of those around, more than I would have thought. And Carl would meet them, and he would be able to persuade them that he knew what he was doing. And it took us 6 months to get all this sorted out. This was not instant. You know what I'm saying? This was not a light switch. It was a process, as I like to say, right?
Yeah.
So,
That was a take.
but within 6 months, Carl was making 50 grand a month. So 600 grand a year. So well above what he made. And he stuck to 25, 30 hours a week. He started to say, maybe I can make 100 grand. So he did that a couple of months, but he noticed he was creeping up to the 45, 50 hour a week mark. So he said, yeah, no, we're going to drop back down to 30 hours a week. So what does that tell you? First of all, you can't be invisible in the marketplace, right? You can't be invisible. Like if nobody knows why they should work with you, then they won't work with you. I mean, it's that simple, right? So you need a very strong message, and that strong message can assist you in getting business. And that's what happened for Carl. And as I said, unfortunately, he passed away just a couple summers ago from pancreatic cancer. But I got a video of him thanking us for what we helped him do, which is really lovely.
Yeah, it sounds like you got him down to where it's definitely better to narrow your market niche rather than making it too broad and just I can help anybody.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
So these people are then they're just when they're working, they're just kind of in their comfort zone. So you actually got to take them out of their comfort zone
Yes, sir.
and get them to do something different. How do you go through that process?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. I'm going to tell you a story of another client of ours. She's a doctor, Dr. Dia. And you know how we were talking about earlier that it's important to have conversations with people and ask for business. And a lot of people get in their own way around that. They talk themselves into a tizzy about what are they going to think of me? Oh my God, am I going to come across as pushy?
Yeah.
So fundamentally, this speaks to an error an error that is easily solvable and fixable. The error is that person is putting all the attention on themselves. You cannot put any of the attention on yourself. If you're asking yourself, are they going to like me? Am I going to come across as pushy? The attention's on you. The questions you should be asking yourself are, who is this person? How are they suffering? Is the suffering that they're going through really bad right now? What's the impact of this on them, on the people they love and that love them? Am I someone with the skill set to alleviate this suffering? Now, you notice this is a subtle but powerful distinction, right? If all you're thinking about is, are they going to like me? Oh my God, I'm pushy, versus who is this person? How can I help them? The attention energetically is off of you and on them. Now, do you know why people usually think you're pushy or you're slimy? It's because you're thinking about what's in it for you or the impact on you. When you are thinking about what's in it for them and the impact on them, that question never comes up in their thinking. They can feel that you're not about yourself. They can feel that you're about them. Human beings are primal creatures. Primal creatures. So, Greg, if I came on this podcast and my only interest was, I want to get Greg to pay me $2,000 to appear on his show. How am I going to do that? What am I like? I mean, come on, it would be obvious to you. And you go, who is this jackass? Let's get him out of here as quick as we can, right? But if I'm coming here on this show and my entire focus is, I'm going to make this dude proud that he brought me on. I'm going to wow his audience. I'm going to make them so happy with the knowledge they got. They are going to love it, right? There's a world of difference between those two approaches. Does it mean that means I should never have the right to have a thought about doing business with somebody? Of course not. You should have a thought about doing business with somebody. But the prism through which you filter that thought should be, how can I be of service to the person I'm speaking to? Not how can I get my hand in their damn wallet? and extract as much money as I can from them. So interestingly, I'm going to tell you this story finally about this lady. So she comes, and lovely person, you know, her message wasn't great, and we helped her nail her message. And she was just very focused on, you know, how she's going to be perceived, because she was not a slimy person at all, like not at all, right? Not thinking about herself, but just very nervous, wanted to be perceived the right way. We helped her get her message, which helped her calm down, and then she put all her focus on her clients. And she works with people who are setting up med spas, like you know, injectors of Botox and things like that. And the message we helped her come in and put together was, your clients are leaving between $7 and $15 million a year on the table, and what you're going to do is, I'm going to show you how to collect that money and not leave it on the table every year. Amazing message, right? Amazing message. You think about it, you would absolutely be interested in getting $7 million more in your pocket this year, right? 100%. You're all over it, right?
Yeah.
So when she started to speak, and she had a speaking event that I work with my lovely better half, and my lovely better half helped her set up the event, was there, helped her rehearse her talk, all of it, was there to make sure that it went well. Like Teresa goes above and beyond. You ever heard of a coach actually going to your event and sitting there with you, making sure that you do a good job on your sales? Because I'd never heard of this before in my life, right?
All right.
So Teresa did this for her, and there were 12 people in the room. 4 of them were interested in what she had to say. 1 of them was interested enough to sign on the line that was dotted, to the tune of $550,000.
Wow. Nice.
32 days later, sold another $500,000 contract to the same individual. So $1,050,000 in 32 days from taking the attention off of herself, nailing her message, super important, nailing your message, but taking the attention off of herself, putting it on the other person, and really focusing on being of service. Incredible things happen. And that is the number one thing that I teach somebody, is stop thinking about you, start thinking about them.
Perfect. How can you service other people? Narrow your clients down to the ones you like working with best, the best ones. Come out of your comfort zone. You're all right there with Nicky.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And it works. It's effective. It works.
But how long have you been doing this for?
So we started this type of coaching back in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
It was 2016 when we really started to help people dial in their message powerfully. And it was last year that we discovered a way that works today to get people leads and clients. And it was through podcast guesting, what I'm doing with you here today. And I figured out for myself how to get on a lot of shows. We met through Podmatch, you know all about Podmatch.
Yep.
And then I with my coach, I started thinking about, well, how do I turn these appearances into leads and clients and revenue? And we figured it out. It took 100 appearances before we figured it out. But over a 2-year period, part-time, 5-7 hours a week, I've generated $400,000 in total in sales from being a guest on other people's shows. Then I started to teach it. I put a workshop together with my coach called Get Booked and Get Paid. And we're actually writing a book by that title as well. So cool. We believe that in 2024 and 2025, probably early to mid 2026, there's a window that going on podcasts as a guest is an opportunity to generate leads and sales and clients. After 2026, it'll be saturated. Everybody's doing it. It's a blue ocean right now. Are you familiar with the book Blue Ocean Strategy? This is a blue ocean right now. And so we want to teach as many people as we can to take advantage of this blue ocean before it turns it into a red ocean.
You got it down, Nicky. How can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more?
So Nicky Billou is a unique name. I'm the only one on the planet. So if you go to any social media platform that you're on and you just want to connect, just type in Nicky Billou and have a connection request and let me know you came from the show, and I'll be happy to accept it. But if you are a business owner who would like to explore how to solve your challenge of being stuck on a plateau in your business, then go to my calendar link and book a call with me. It's a free call. There's no obligation. I don't do the whole pushy sales thing. All the attention is going to be on you, just like I talked about here. But just go to ecircleacademy.com/appointment and pick a time that works for you, and let's have a chat.
I appreciate that, Nicky, and thank you very much for taking time out of your day to be on my show. Sounds like definitely a lot of my entrepreneurs and franchisees and franchisors could definitely use you and your services.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me on the show. You're a great host. You ask great questions, and you let me talk. You gave me the opportunity to show what makes sense from my point of view, and I really appreciate that.
You got it, Nicky. All right, everybody, have a great time out there today, and see you again.